Coming up, why some Iowa Hawkeye fans feel stuck, and understandably so. But first, a reminder to please check out Iowa Floor Covering. If you're getting ready for a remodel or need flooring of some type, check out their products. Visit iowafloorcovering.com and add the /DIY. Great self-installation options right now, including their Tough Core click-together 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring, available right now at an unbelievable price, $269 per foot with self-installation. Visit iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. They're local. They're located right down in Bondurant, the heart of central Iowa. Again, that's iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. And Ascent Nutrition, they're unbelievable coffee. It's mold and mycotoxin free. It'll get you ready for your day. You will not be polluting your body like you are when you buy some of the big name coffees that are treated with pesticides. And certainly those brands don't want you to know that. But go AscentNutrition.com. Visit that website because Ascent coffee is pure, it's clean, and it tastes great. So, folks, we know the routine. Iowa's offense sputters again. And yes, they scored 14 points against the mighty Wolverines of Michigan. But the Iowa defense giving up 20 through the majority of the game, 7 late garbage points that didn't really matter. But I'd say the same thing about the Iowa offense. Iowa was stuck on 7 throughout much of the third quarter and fourth quarter. But remember, they had 0 points at halftime. Iowa was down 20-0 in that third quarter. And yes, Spencer Petras put together a decent drive or two. He had some decent numbers. But when you're sitting back in that deep zone and you can kind of play relaxed in Iowa, I mean, look, Iowa was playing at that point with house money. Michigan had kind of let down their guard. You're talking about a team that basically had won that game. I mean, it would have taken a lot. I know Iowa, had they scored on that 4th and 2, let's not even talk about that 4th and 2 call, but had they scored on that drive late in the fourth quarter, they would have had a chance to maybe get the ball back with an opportunity. But when you're up 20-0, the game is basically determined. So Iowa, as we have seen, under Brian Ferentz, especially these last 2 years, the offense typically shatters under pressure, and the numbers are inflated when there isn't pressure. And we're talking about garbage time or in games where Iowa's defense has controlled things and Spencer can kind of play free and relax a little bit and make some throws that he's obviously capable of making in practice because we keep hearing about it. But it just doesn't show up consistently in the big games, in the big moments. So a lot of Iowa fans feel stuck, and I understand why. In fact, there was a tweet I wanted to share with you from a guy that I'm actually not following on Twitter. Maybe I should start following him. Clint Harms, who's obviously a Hawkeye fan. This is what he tweeted out on Sunday. He said, and I quote, "Brian Ferentz isn't cutting it as OC. KF, Kirk Ferentz, won't fire him. And quite frankly, it probably wouldn't change much if he did." I don't agree with that necessarily. He goes on to say, "I don't want KF fired. Does anyone else feel stuck?" So this is the reason I wanted to make this video, because this is a sentiment that I've heard from a lot of people over the last few days. Most fans, including myself, don't want to see Kirk Ferentz fired. We love Kirk Ferentz. He's brought tons of unbelievable memories. His character, he is a truly great person. I really believe that. He's got a huge blind spot as it relates to his son. I don't think anybody that's trying to be objective and reasonable would deny that. The problem here is you don't want him fired, as Clint brought out, but this is not working. This experiment of sorts, and you should never be experimenting in a situation like this, but that's what this was. An experiment by having Brian Ferentz take over as OC and then doubling down when the offense was terrible and making him the QB's coach. It was never going to work. It's not working, and it's not going to work. So the longer you wait, the worse this is going to get. And right now, Iowa's being stabilized by one of the best defenses in the country, coached by Phil Parker, who, by the way, isn't getting any younger. All right. And we saw this on Saturday. Like, as great as the defense is, there are going to be games, as bad as the offense is, that it doesn't matter what you do defensively. And yes, Iowa struggled to stop the run. There is no margin for error right now defensively for Iowa. All right. They're not getting any help from the offense. Don't bring up the third and fourth quarters. That was garbage time. I'm not even looking at that. Okay. And Kirk Ferentz wanted to bring that out in the press conference after the game, that he saw improvement. Until I see improvement when the game is still in doubt, I have no faith that this Iowa offense is moving anywhere close to the right direction. And here's what's going to happen, folks. As we continue throughout each game of this season, regardless of record, I think as we go, there's less and less of a chance that Kirk Ferentz makes a change at quarterback. And certainly that's not the only problem. The line's a problem. Wide receiver play is a problem. Play calling is a problem. All these things were problems last year. So I don't know if they were really addressed. They certainly don't appear to have been addressed. The point is, each game that we go here throughout the season, there's less and less of a chance that Kirk Ferentz makes a change at quarterback because you go from bottom of the barrel. I mean, literally, you can't get worse as far as quarterback play and just offensive play in general than you had in the South Dakota State and Iowa State games. So each game, Kirk is going to look at this and tell the media that, it seems like we're making improvement. We're heading in the right direction. We heard that after the Michigan game, that he saw improvement. So you literally, I mean, we said this after last season. Well, you can't get worse than 123. Well, we were wrong. You can be 131 in total offense. And I don't care if you want to say that stat is wrong or that stat's not accurate enough. Total offense isn't a good way to measure Iowa's offense. The eye test will tell you, points per game will tell you that this is one of probably the worst Power 5 offense in the country. So it can only go up, but it's not going to go up at the rate we need it to. And I don't care if you end up at 115 in total offense. That's still disgusting. It's still terrible. And it's not going to get substantially better with Brian Ferentz as the OC unless changes are made around him. Staff changes have to be made, folks. And so when Clint says he feels stuck, I get it. Because you don't want Kirk Ferentz fired. You know Kirk Ferentz is not going to fire his son unless he's prodded, unless he's told he has to. And you've got an AD who's willing to do that. You don't have an AD who's willing to step up to the plate and do this because the reality is Kirk Ferentz makes decisions, not Gary Barta. That's the reality, folks. So, Clint, I understand. I sympathize with you. And if you're a Hawkeye fan who's frustrated, I get it. I've been frustrated for 2 years now, right? But look, I yearn for the days of Nate Stanley. I yearn for the days of having a top 100 offense. That's all I want now is a top 100 offense. But they're nowhere close to that. They're nowhere close to that. I don't know if they'll beat Illinois. I don't know if they'll beat Northwestern, frankly. I don't know if they'll beat Nebraska, the way Nebraska played against Indiana on Saturday. So each week we're going to continue to hear the same thing, that we're heading in the right direction. But I'll tell you, you're going to get an influx of players entering the portal. And I'm not talking about numbers. I'm talking about firepower. And does Iowa have a ton of guys that you'd look at and say, wow, there's some star-studded players in that lineup? No. And I'm not going to make any specific predictions, but Keegan Johnson intrigues me. Arlen Bruce intrigues me. Certainly the backup quarterbacks intrigue me. All of those guys. You lose any one of those guys, the way Iowa's struggled to recruit at wide receiver, and now losing Kendrick Raphael at running back, I think they're okay at that position. That might be my most confident position. After that, boy, I just don't know. I don't know where this offense turns for support as long as the coaching staff holds serve and continues to do what it's doing. But Clint, I get it. And Hawkeye fans out there, I get it. Staff changes need to happen, and they need to happen now. I'm not saying that Iowa needs to fire Kirk. Certainly, I'm not saying that. Wisconsin went out and fired Paul Chryst, which was a shocker to many people. But it is sort of an indication that Wisconsin's standard is higher than Iowa's. And maybe it'll backfire. Maybe Jim Leonhard will fail there, and maybe Wisconsin ends up being the next Illinois. I don't know. But, heck, if I'm a Wisconsin fan, I'm sitting around thinking, Paul Chryst was close to retirement probably anyways. Jim Leonhard's an up-and-coming coach. We're proactive here. We were proactive. And, folks, don't be surprised if in 2 to 3 years we look back and say, wow, that was a proactive move. Man, that was thinking ahead. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I sure hope we're not looking back and thinking, I wish we had done the same. And I'm not talking about, again, firing Kirk Ferentz, but I'm talking about making wholesale coaching changes and being willing to make them before things go completely down into the dumps. A reminder that I'll be back on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central Time for Hawkeye Hangout. We'll be talking about a game in which Iowa is the underdog at Illinois. Brett Bielema and the Fighting Illini versus the Hawkeyes this Saturday. I'll be with you Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central Time for a live call-in edition of Hawkeye Hangout. We'll talk to you soon.